Hey folks, Matt Wilson with BTB Security, back for this week's edition of BTB Reacts. This week, an article caught my eye, actually from Brian Krebs on Security. If you haven't noticed a pattern, I'm regularly checking him out. He has a ton of good content all the time. One of the many sources I hit, but he linked to an article from Motherboard/Vice, who also does a tremendous amount of really good, just good content overall, but specifically around information security, the kinds of topics they dig into. Another resource I strongly encourage you to check in on periodically. This is an article that is pretty fresh and has to do with the leveraging of SMS text messages for multi-factor authentication. This is something that us InfoSec professionals, if you are one, you're thinking, well, we've known for years that there's issues with SMS. We've known about SIM swapping. We've known about malware on the endpoint, potentially malware targeting the infrastructure at the telecoms. All true, all valid. The dam has had cracks in it for years, that's for sure. But with this article, it's actually a fairly novel, at least in my humble opinion, fairly novel threat vector. The title is a bit clickbaity, but it is 100% accurate. I paid a hacker to get a hacker paid $16 to get all my texts, and that's true. For those that aren't connecting the dots here, as you use your phone and text messaging as a multi-factor authentication option, as a fail-safe for when you're locked out of an account and you might get a link or some code texted to you, if someone can take over your phone number and get those text messages, they can simply request those services as you. And in this case, as Joseph Cox shows through in the article that I'll link in the description below, it's immediate and there's no warning to the end user. There's a company called Sakari that he features in the story, but there's tons of companies exactly like these folks. Their goal is to do SMS marketing and help businesses. They facilitate that for businesses, which us consumers probably don't love most of the time, but it's valid. It's a valid way to market to folks. It's something that's grown over the years. I know I've gotten them. I've gotten text messages. I'm sure everyone watching has. But this space we've known has really been overlooked from a security perspective at both the telecom level, at the policy level. Information security and privacy is woefully lacking here. And what happens is very simple. This company, Sakari, you can pay them to help send messages as a phone number. And once you punch in that number, it takes over and all your messages get rerouted to them, to whoever was taking over that phone number. This is different, and I wanted to go back in time a little bit and show a bit more of the history. This is not new, right? So back in 2017, there's an article on The Verge about how you can hijack a text message. And in this case, they were doing some SIM swapping type stuff. Again, involves some social engineering, involves reaching out to telecom. It's still effective. It still happens every day. But there is a bit more risk to doing so. And there's even another article that I'll link just to show that, yet again, so that was 2017 from The Verge. This is 2019 from Security Week. This is a bit more of the history of SMS messaging. I did not know that the very first SMS message was Merry Christmas. But in this case, this author, David Holmes, touches on 6 different ways that bad guys can overtake your phone number, can use how SMS for multi-factor authentication can be abused. So these are all things that, again, are not new. In 2021, there's at least 5 years now of history of researchers, probably more if we dug into it, of researchers calling out these flaws in SMS messaging. So back to the main story. We got to the conclusion there where it was successful, but the story is absolutely worth a read. And the take on it is no solution will be perfect. No control will be infallible. You build controls out and you layer them in such a way You've heard that term defense in depth, something that is a bit old hat at this point, but it's something that is valid. It doesn't mean that SMS for multi-factor authentication has no use case, but it's dwindling. What are the alternatives? I don't want to get into vendor names, but it's something that, engage with your security provider on, engage with BTB security. Let's talk about what your use case is. Let's talk about your risk. That's really the right way to approach it. So I wanted to keep this relatively short and just bring this issue up. So if you're using SMS for multi-factor authentication, now is the time to rethink what that actually buys you. Consider the alternatives. Take a read through this article. It's not a big, scary, clickbaity technical thing. This is fairly straightforward. So with that said, I'll wrap things up for this week. Please follow us along, do the smash the like button, subscribe, all that stuff. I know I'm terrible at the social media, but it does help us get the word out. We're trying to provide some good content for folks, and hopefully you're enjoying it. So thank you very much. Have a great day. Be well.